You were born where?
I was born in Blackfoot. Got down, Dad said we were just half a mile from the asylum there and half a mile from the Indian reservation. If I'd have been born half a mile one way, I'd been in India. Half a mile the other way, I'd have been crazy.
And
When I
so,
was 4 years old, they moved out to Mud Lake on the farm out there. Pretty much developing country. There were very few settlers out there. We didn't bring those pictures or anything, but you might be able to attach them somewhere on there.
Probably good.
Pictures of the early settlement anyway there. Not very many. There was a one-room schoolhouse. It sat across the street from our place, right about where you see a picture of Kirk standing in front of the new schoolhouse, 1939 or something like that. It was just a one-room frame white schoolhouse there, where they had 8 grades in one school, in one room, and one teacher. The yard was the schoolyard. It was pretty much sagebrush and tumbleweeds, really. And remember, of course, they had a lot of wind in the country. And one of the games we played was to go break loose some of those big tumbleweeds in the high wind. And we each choose a tumbleweed and race them across the yard.
so then there is wind in Territon?
Occasionally we have a breeze there. Yes. So far we haven't had very many hurricanes or tornadoes. It keeps it up steady and gets it out of its system.
Yeah.
But it was selected by the government as the place least likely to be missed in the event of an atomic accident, because the wind always blows right from Arco.
From Arco to Territon.
Yeah.
I see. Well, next to Arco, the first place to go anyway, huh? So growing up as a boy, you were how old when Kirk was born?
I was 11
And you're going to tell us about when you two first met?
when I first met him. What a day that was. It may seem funny to people nowadays, but I had absolutely no idea, and I don't think Larry did either. In fact, we were expecting a new baby brother or anything like that, you know. And Dad had sent us out into the field to work. We were down in the south 80 there, right at the bottom of the field, I remember it. One of us was running a plow and one running a harrow. Three horses on the plow and 2 or 3 on the harrow. I don't know, we'd been working there during the morning. Along about 11 o'clock, Carol came riding out. She had a horse, so she was the main cowboy. Carol. She had this horse, and Dad says she always rode like a wild Indian. She did go just as fast as horses go. Here she comes, claggity clack out across the field there, and stopped us and said, "You've got a new baby brother." I don't know what we said, but I expect we looked at each other like, where in the world did that come from? Anyway, we were to quit and come to the house. We had a new baby brother. Kirk was actually born right there in the house where we live now. In the room, it's in the room where we put you when you come out to stay, the south room. He was born there at home with the midwife, Esther Ballard. What was her first name?
Sister Ballard.
Sister Ballard, because you weren't there. No.
First name was Sister, anyway.
So growing up, you had a younger brother that was 11 years younger than you. Was he ever the...
Butt of our jokes?
Thank you. Yes.
Always.
And did he ever retaliate?
He didn't dare. We made his life, in fact, he mentioned it to Mother. They're making my life a perfect horror.
And they did.
We tried. For instance, there was this little funny paper character, Barney Google and Snuffy Smith. I don't know whether anybody ever remember them or not, except Kirk and us, but this funny paper, and this Snuffy Smith was a little bit of a guy. They called him a feather merchant. Feather merchant, I don't know why. But he was a little bit of a guy. I can remember in the military service, they had the guys on the end of the row was called feather merchants. And he was smaller than that, but tougher than boiled owl meat, you know. And,
I've never had boiled owl meat.
yeah. Didn't you eat boiled owl meat?
Sounds tough.
He was a little bit of a guy, and Kirk had a little friend there that was, we called Snuffy all the time anyway.
Because
He's not Dad called him Snuffy because he snuffed a lot.
Yeah,
He's no friend.
He's on our temple crew now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Gary. Anyway, he was several years older, but he ran around with Kirk. Barney Googles, or Snuffy Smith, had a little friend named Sut Tattersall. He was even smaller, but boy, was he tough. And they were comic characters. You got a big kick out of them. It's kind of like reading Little Abner and stuff like that, you know. So we always called him Sut Tattersall. We always called him Sut. And the other boy, we called him Snuffy Smith. And Sut Tattersall had a funny little song that he sang. Of course, on the funny paper, all he could do was say la doody doo, you know, just the notes flying around. So Larry and I'd go around and say la doody doo, la doody doo, where? It makes my life a perfect horror.
I don't know why that bothered me so much. I guess because they wanted it to.
I guess that's where we could just whistle it, you know, just go. Get a big yell out of him. He taught Snuffy Smith language to him quite a lot, you know.
Just
Still bit of language.
keeping him in his place. Huh? And how did you retaliate? At
I
all?
don't remember that I did, except by telling Mom that they made my life a perfect horror.
And that was it, huh?
But I remember that they used to go down to the community hall and set up for the guy that brought in the weekly movie.
And Larry and I did jobs helping him set up and show his movie. For that we got a free movie ticket.
He liked Snuffy Smith's talk.
Yeah.
That may even have been where the idea originated, I'm not sure.
Well, he and Kirk talked, Snuffy Smith talked back and forth.
Kirk was just a little kid.
Kirk was sick one night and couldn't go down with us. And we told Ralph, well, Kirk's sick tonight, but he sent word to you. Wanted to know, he said, would you rather have a full Jimmy John or an empty Jimmy John bounced off in your pumpkin head? Prestridge sent back the word. Tell him I'd rather have a full Jimmy John because a few drops might fall in the tater trap. And you understood all that, didn't you?
I did. Whatever a tater trap is.
You did.
Oh, that's a tater trap. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's some terrible funny expressions.
So May, tell us about your growing up. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chesterfield, Idaho, which is a little place between Lava Hot Springs and Soda Springs in Idaho. Except midway there, you take off and go up in the hills where there isn't much. It was a
Churches restored the village up there.
It was a real early settlement, and
Historical site.
yeah, the church has made a historical site out of it because at one time they had their own brick kiln, and they built some brick buildings, and it was an old pioneer place.
What do you remember from back then?
Oh, our house was right kind of below the schoolhouse and the church. The church and the school and big recreation hall sat up on top of this hill, and our house was just down below it. We coasted down the hill on sleighs, and
Heavy snow country there.
when it was really bad, my dad would plow us kids on the horse, and he'd walk and lead that horse up the hill to school, and with all those kids on the back of the horse.
Living in Mud Lake, we didn't know what a hill was.
Yeah, that's true.
Best we could do for coasting hill was the canal bank, huh?
Yeah.
I lived close to my mother's family. I had lots of cousins, and my dad was in the bishopric for about 23 years, a counselor, and so he was gone a lot. I had 3 older brothers and 2 older sisters, and then 2 younger sisters. So it was a big family, and we didn't have any money. We had lots of cows. And I remember one time I wasn't supposed to play in the granary, but I played there anyway, and I fell down the straddle of the board that was dividing the things. That cured me of that. It was very rural, but we had traveling plays and things like that would come around every once in a while, summer or winter. And they often came to our house to have dinner between the time that they set up their stuff and the time that they gave the plays. And I remember how the meals that my mother used to fix, how good they smelled, and people just really raved about them because it was homemade, home-cooked stuff.
You remember the names of any of those plays?
I don't.
That's a hoot if you can remember the kinds of things they did.
Yeah. Oh, and then, they always sold little boxes of candy or nuts or something. Terrible price for a little tiny box of very little food. And then, too, it was a...
And what was a terrible price?
Probably
I can't remember.
Like a penny or 5 cents? Or
Well, it was at least 5.
at least a nickel. Mm.
Yeah. I think it was... It seems to me like it was 15. Anyway, it seemed like a lot of money to me. It was a little community that also produced lots of hometown entertainment. My dad had a great tenor voice, and then there was a large lady who had a beautiful alto, and they were the main characters in most of these things, although they were a beautiful pair, like you and the ones you performed with, But it was fun. And I had 3 older brothers, 2 older sisters, and 2 younger sisters.
That's right. All in a big house.
Well, no. It was quite a large house, but it was really funny. We had one great big room that we called the front room, and in there we had the piano, and we hardly ever went in there. We lived in the dining room, kitchen, and 3 bedrooms. My folks had a fairly good-sized bedroom, and then we had all these kids in these other bedrooms. It was pioneering.
You have to remember that it was during Depression times too, and nobody had any money. And it was cold country. That's cold country up there. That little cemetery on top of the hill was the coldest place in Idaho.
And about as much wind as there is in Mud Lake.
Oh, there is?
So
Wow.
they probably had trouble keeping all the house warm at one time.
We, like Ted's family, sat around the stove in the dining room area at night, read and talked. We sang a lot in our home. It was fun. And as I said, my mother's 2 brothers lived close by, and so we did lots of things with our cousins. All holidays and things like that. We were together. I had a good childhood.
That's great. Okay, Virginia, tell us about your growing up.
Well, it was almost different, opposite of May's. She had cousins and you know, played together and got together a lot. I was the only one. I had no brothers or sisters, and really, the cousins I had were much older than me, and I didn't even really know most of them at all.
How old were
They
you?
thought I was spoiled.
Yeah.
But
We'll get into the matchmaking thing here later. You know, perfect match type thing. But how old were your parents when you were born?
my parents were 46 when I was born, and
Don't tell my wife that.
Baby.
Yeah, she is a miracle baby. That's true.
yes, I really was. Mother was in she was in the hospital almost a month after I was born, and then she was home dead from a month. So, and then I got pneumonia right after that. About 3 months old. And all I can do is tell you about it. I remember that, but the doctor just said she'll live or she'll die, and Mother says she's not going to die, and she just sat with me all night by the stove, and the kid they had a stove in the living room, and it was sitting out for a ways, not right close to a wall. I don't know why. And
So it wouldn't burn the wall.
well, I mean, it not like we usually have the stove close to the wall, out, and that's where my bassinet was. And by the way, it was the same bassinet you were put in. All our kids use that bassinet too.
That was later.
Yeah, I assume so.
And
I don't remember it anyway.
she just willed me to live, because most babies with pneumonia died. There was not much they could do for them. And so I did.
And you grew up in
I grew up in Focus Hill.
Hotel.
Mm-hmm. I was born in St. Mary's Hospital there, and well, as I said, I had an entirely different life, a very more or less by myself life. I had lots of friends, but I didn't have any brothers and sisters, and it wasn't the same. And I remember once asking my mother, "Why can't I have some brothers and sisters?" I didn't ask that again.
You should have talked to Ted and Larry. They could have delivered a brother and without even knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have worked.
That we had my dad worked for the railroad as a boilermaker, and then when he decided he wanted to retire from there, he wanted to build a little grocery store. So they did that. They called it the Virginia Grocery, and it got to be known all over the country down there. And so I really grew up in a grocery store, and everybody thought I had everything that I could ever want. It was Depression. My mother was a tremendous sewer. She took all her old clothes, with which she had wrinkles, and made beautiful clothes for me. And so I was well dressed and well fed, and gee, if I wanted an ice cream cone, I could get one. And so the kids were all jealous of me. They thought that I just had, but really I didn't, because I was all alone. And I went, Mother wouldn't go any place unless I went with her. If I couldn't go, she wouldn't go. And so I went to the American Legion, auxiliary meetings. I went to the American Legion ball. Everything you could think of like that. I never had a babysitter. But I did grow up.
Is evidenced
Yeah.
by
The
your
church
attendance.
was a different factor in your life from what it was in
Oh, yes,
Ted
and when I
May.
was in Ted May's life, my dad was a member of the church, but totally inactive. I didn't know he was a member of the church. In fact, Mother took me to church, and she was not a member of the church. And she decided I needed some religion. She let me go to primary, or sent me. We had primary in a home at that time. I used to walk down to primary, and we had, she took me to sacrament meeting. but she always kept saying, the church is so noisy. The church is so noisy. She was the church that she was used to going to, Church of England, they came in and sat down and shut up. And they sat there 3 hours without opening their mouth, and they breathed loud. They were in trouble. And then of course, they had a priest that just got up, told them everything, and that was it. And she couldn't quite understand why the church was so noisy. But she, whenever anyone asked, she was there to donate, to give, to do things for the church. Dad was too. But he never went back. He never went to church. Oh, when I was in high school, when I was senior, I guess. I told her one night, I said, Mom, if you ever want to go to my wedding, you better think about joining the church because I'm going to be married in the temple. She says, oh. So she let us bring in the missionaries, and we're two nice young men, and they gave her the lessons, and she joined, and I think she joined because she was going to my wedding. So then when I did get married, why, first of all, she was sealed to my father, and then I was sealed to them. And we were sealed. So it was really kind of neat.
Heard your jackpot.
Yeah.
All done the same?
All done the same day, same time. Yeah, she was.
Busy day.
She was. And she was, she always went to church. Of course, I became very active because all my friends were active. And that's really what took me to mutual, to Sunday school, to sacrament meeting, they were all
To the
active,
temple.
and to the temple. And that I owe to some of my teachers in Sunday school and in then MIA. But after that, she was really quite active. The only friend I've ever known my mother to have was the people that lived next door to us, the Bibles. And Sister Bobby called me the Relief Society president, and she called my mother to be the secretary. I think she was in the Relief Society presidency. And she was for all the years she was left, that they lived there. And of course, my mother, that's where I get my organization from. Everything was done just so and perfect. But she would go to the temple with Sister Bobby, made Sister Bobby a new temple dress, and made the wedding dress for the daughter from Bobby. Made my wedding
When did your
dress.
dad get active then?
He never did get really active. It was too hard for him to get.
But he went to temple with you.
He really, I guess they were very lenient in getting him to speak because he didn't go to church. It was too hard to sit in the chairs. He was a big, big man. And it was too hard for him to sit in the chairs and too hard for him to get around. He got around pretty by that time.
I think you say your mother was organized, but he was organized too. He was the real manager.
Yeah.
He handled that store back in the days before computers and so on. With real skill, I think.
Yes, he did. But not only real skill, but with real, shouldn't do this. He was very kind.
He had compassion for the people that came there. He never let anybody go hungry if he could help it.
Yeah, they fed the WPA workers during the Depression. Mother cooked big pots of soup and fed them. But during the war, food was hard to come by. And he knew who had bread this day. They didn't get bread until the people who didn't get it the next day got bread.
And those people were probably complaining about his organization skills.
Oh,
at
I'm
that
sure.
point.
Well, and because our customers were almost all credit customers, but they always paid their bills. They never let that go without getting paid. But if these people would go around, they called them hoarders, and they'd buy everything they could in the store and take it home and hide it. And so when they come in, he knew they weren't customers. He'd say, "I'm sorry, but I'm not selling it today. You can't buy that from me." And as soon as they learned anything was going on ration, they were right there at the door to buy. And he would never sell it to them. He made sure his people, that all his customers got what they needed. And they did the same thing with the immigrants. They came up from the reservation, and they had no money. And that mother gets mad at him. "You're giving them all that stuff, and you're not going to get paid." "Well, yes,